So I'm looking for it right now is, are we going to hold kind of 850? If we can hold 850, then I can look at a stop loss around 824. This is MNTS. This has gone off on the scanner. So we're kind of in this 840 range. There's some green that came through. I'm going to take a starter right there. That's 852. And again, I'm looking for, possible stop loss. I'll probably do about, 822 is the low of this pivot right here. But we're going to just wait and see if this proves me right here. Probably do a stop loss at like 835. And that's it. So I'm out. Okay, so as you can see, now this is down into this shaded support area. It may find support here. But as that pulls back deeper, now if it's going to continue to pull back, I'd be looking for maybe 21 EMA. So that was 135 bucks. I took a 500 share starter just to see what it was going to do if we would get that support. Now, if I'm looking at anything else on this, this is going to be, pull back to the 21 EMA, maybe a wick between the 21 and the 34, and then kind of see if it gets any support and finds a leg upwards. On another screen over here, I've got the 5-minute chart, and it doesn't look great. Pretty large topping tail on the 5-minute. Can show you on this screen what that looks like. So the 5-minute, this is what you've got, this large topping tail here and a selling candle, and it's the highest volume candle as well. So not exactly the best looking. So I've added here 6,000 shares total right now. Entry's 98 cents. This is VRME. It's going off on the scanner. Added again there. Now I got 7,500 shares. You can see here I'm watching this level 2. Really like to see this, get a candle close above the dollar. This current high is 98.56 of this candle. That's the pre-market high right now. This hit 104. So once this candle closes, there'll be a new pre-market high there. And so at this point, I am, watching the level 2 here. There's a pullback, $1. I'm kind of watching the sellers pop up. And if those get bought up, and do we, push higher? 20,000 share seller there. There's 21,000. Then we get a little pullback, right? So now what I'm watching for is I'm not necessarily looking to exit. I'm looking for this thing to hold $1. I know my stop loss at this point is going to be, 95 cents. So I'm not going to give this a ton of room. Well, the pivot's right there at 95. That's the pivot high. So I'd actually probably more look like 93 cents. But I really want to see this hold $1 and then make that next push higher. And if we get this pullback here, then on my other charts, I'm watching the selling, meaning I'm looking at the volume on this red candle. Right now it is lighter selling there. It's turned green. But if we get this little pullback, a couple consolidation candles, then I'll look to add first 1 minute candle to make a new high. So right now, just sitting tight here, watching what this does. So the high of this candle is 101. We'll see if this pivot, this 95 pivot holds. And this high, 101. There's a big flash of green. Here's 101. Pulls back some. Kind of waiting to see if this is going to pop over 101 and hit 102. There's 96, a little deeper pullback. There's pops up again. So this is the kind of like expect to be wrong until proven otherwise right here, which is I'm not going to add. I've got a fairly sizable position. You can see 7,500 shares. My average cost is 99. And like I said, I'm only giving this thing about probably 6 cents. So, which would still represent about $500. But I'd like to see if this will pop over 101 and then break that. There we go. Added there, added again. Quick pump up to 107. So now I'm in at 101. Average cost 10,000 shares. So I won't add any more here. At least that wouldn't be my plan. If this significantly went higher, then I could look to add. So I don't love that right now. We're getting this big topping tail. My pivot would be 96. This pivot low right here on this little pullback. And that's 107. So then over on my other charts, I've got another kind of set of charts that I take a look at the daily. So I'm looking at those right now, and we are above the 200 EMA, which was at 89 cents. Excuse me. We're above the 200 EMA, so that's a good sign. There's always, I mean, I shouldn't say always, but regularly there's resistance around that $1 level. Really good volume on the 5-minute chart higher. You can see MNTS moving up here. I'll go take a quick peek at that just so I can look at it. So kind of a nice curl there. Let me pop back over. So still holding this guy. There's a little pullback, 97, 98. Let's just see what this does here. Again, so 317 current position. Like I said, I don't want to give these a ton of space, but I see these candle wicks coming down and they kind of get bought up, and I'm still in the mode of, okay, let's see if this will push higher. The TTM is looking nice as far as we're growing. We're getting some slowing momentum down here, and so we may end up getting ourselves stopped out. Let's see what happens. Consolidation here. See if this 8 EMA will hold. These candles are green. Now, I would like to stay in as long as these candles are green here, but we're getting a pretty deep, that's a pretty deep pullback there. Now all I'm really watching is, okay, is this pivot going to hold? Is the 21 EMA going to hold? So still in, you can see I'm in right here at about 500. This is this part of I expect to be uncomfortable. In addition, while we're sitting here, MNTS has curled up pretty nicely off of the 21. But let's just sit here and kind of see what we can get. If we can get this to pull back up and hold the 8, then maybe we get that next leg higher. Still sitting. It's the MNTS. I go back to MNTS. I mean, that's a pretty nice curl. It's back above the 80 MA here, 850. Flip back over to VRME. Yeah, I'd like to see this. If this will hold, maybe we get this, next move up, back up and test this 107. Oh, there was a big pop on MNTS. Well, that's fine. That's not the one that I'm in, not the one I'm focused on. That's a nice move there. Look at that chart once we see what this stock does. And maybe that's a little more normal, right? Like this little higher priced, it's going to move a little faster than typically something that's down in the $1 range. So, you got to pick what you're going to watch and what you're going to go after. 97, some more green. There we kind of popped up back up over this high, 98. So again, not looking to add. I never add when I'm wrong. I'm more sitting in the camp right now of I expect to be uncomfortable because I'm treating this like real. So there's $1. See if we can get this next leg kind of up through $1 and a close up above $1. We've got just 4 seconds left on this candle. Let's see where this goes here. So TTM, still bullish. 101. Still sitting tight. And now, see, this kind of gives me a reference point here. So that held 93, and it came into the 21. So we'd expect our pivot low to be somewhere there. And we may, if we get a little consolidation, then maybe this will, if it takes this little breather, it'll build some strength to go the next leg higher. Over on my other charting platform, can drag that over here just so you can see this. So these are the other charts. I've got a 5-minute up, a 1 minute, a daily, and a 10-second open. This is part of the Day Trade Dash software. Nice little pump there. So I'm watching this 5-minute, little lower selling volume on the 5-minute, which is nice. Good volume on the 5-minute on this prior candle. And so now I'm watching to see, can this reclaim kind of this wick on the 5 and give us a leg up. There we go. That was a nice pop there. Oh, I lost my... Get that back over here. Okay, so there's my position still. It's a nice pop up through 107, 112. So now we're up 678. So, here's the thing, like, there's this big part of me that wants to be scaling out right here, right? And I chuckle about it because I know that's something that I've really worked on through my paper trading. So instead of scaling out here, I'm waiting to see, okay, we just put in this new high, not a very big topping tail there. And is there a spot here I can add? Like, would I get a little pullback and then we'd push up through again? I do have this declining momentum, but I'm watching the TTM as well. And there's kind of a little better view of momentum in the TTM. And, this may not give us any more. So I'm up 783 right now. We'll kind of see what she does. But I'm also been working to, hold as long as the 8 EMA is holding. On these little pullbacks, okay, am I between the 8 and 21? Have I hit my stop loss? If not, then let's stay in. And, we're just going to sit tight here. I've got 10,000 shares on a $1 stock for penny stocks is plenty as long as I manage my risk well. And so I may not even add here. I may just sit tight and kind of see where this goes. And that's okay too. I did my ads earlier on. And so then now at this point, again, this is back to this, like, I expect to be uncomfortable. yeah, I'm up $1,200. I had a small loss. I could close this whole thing out right here. But if this goes to a buck 25 or a buck 35, then I'm sitting on the sidelines out at $1.15 and I left 2 grand on the table. So I'd rather kind of sit here, be content, look for a really big, large extension candle if we're going to get it. I'm looking at the daily, and, we reasonably could go to $1, maybe $1.20 here. Next target would be $1.23. So let me just draw those out. Those are daily resistance levels. So that's a little bigger pullback there. Let's see what she does. $1.20, $1.23, and then $1.40 and $1.48. I'm just gonna draw those in here. So there's $1.40 right there. I'll do that as the next one, and then $1.48, which is right up near that $1.50. So if we pop back, this is kind of where we're at. New 5-minute candle just opened up, and again, I'm just watching this now. At this point, again, I'm really looking. Okay, are we going to hold the ADMA? I know that's a pretty big pullback to 105. I was in at 101, so I'm really not trying to think about, okay, this is what my unrealized gains are, because that's the part that starts to get me in trouble, as I start to think like, oh, this thing's going down, and so let me just get out, or let me lighten up a position now. So I really want to see, okay, will this hold the ADMA? What's my selling volume looking like? It's a little lighter selling volume. That was a nice pop from $1, and even 94 cents up to 117. And it's hit the high of day scanner. So you've got people watching this. It is a low float stock. VRME has almost a 10 million share float, but so it is low float. It hits the low float scanners, which is good. Nice little pop there again. See if we can get a new push higher. And so, guys, what I'm looking at now is, okay, do I get a red candle? Do I get a red candle that's lost the AEMA? Double top there right now at 117. My TTM is still nice and strong. I can, that histogram still rising, which is a good sign. Doesn't mean it'll go up forever, of course. Nothing ever does, but I'm seeing a little bit of resistance coming in here now in that 117 realm. And, we keep pulling back off of that 117. So what I'll probably do is throw a limit order out there at 114 to sell. Let's lighten up a little. So I'll sell 3,000 shares. Let's see if we get kind of this pushback up to 114. You know what? Scratch that. I'm going to take that off. Oh, shoot. Darn it. I punched that in wrong. Sorry. I hit Control Z and cleared off 700 shares. Let me cancel those. Sorry, 7,000. You can Control Z is my full exit, my full position. And I did that a little bit on accident. I apologize. But I hit that Control Z, and the 3,000 shares that I had as out to sell didn't sell because I already had an open order there. But when I hit Control Z on my system, it closed the rest of the shares that I had there. So I didn't exactly want to do that. You can see that, there's my sell confirmations. So now what I want to do from here is I really want to hold the rest of these, and I'm going to assume break even at worst. And I'm going to look more for, do I get a red candle that loses the ADMA, and kind of what does that selling look like? I see this triple top here. I've really, again, worked hard to not kind of panic sell down here, instead set a limit order. That's why you guys saw me set that limit order up at 114, because my thought is if this tries to kind of hold support and recover, I'm not taking so much off down here where there's possible support. I'm taking more of it off up here on the extension as we approach the double top. But given that I fat fingered that a little bit and hit that Control Z, I want to now see, okay, where does this last 3,000 shares take me? In fact, I'm going to add right there. So I'm going to add back first 1 minute candle to make a new high. Now you can see my average cost is 107. So I'll assume break even, given this add back here, and it is a little higher. And let's see where she goes. If we break again, I may look for another add opportunity. Like I said, I've added back. You can see that at 114, 500 shares, so total 1,500, 3 500 share orders. And I want to see, is this going to move up? Now, I will say, you saw me do that add back, and what I did is I added is this first 1 minute candle to make a new high at 112. I was just a touch slow as I was getting my fingers on my keys. And then normally you'd assume, stop loss at 109, which would be the low of it'd be the low of that kind of trigger candle. You'll see the same thing happened here at 114, where then this popped up. But what I didn't like as much about the 114 is at the time the stock had not come back into the 8 EMA. And you can see on this candle, it did. It came right into it, and then you got that break. Now, in strong markets, maybe this first 1 minute high does just take off and go. The market's been slower, and that seems like it getting into the 8's been a little bit better strategy. So now I'm back below my average on my add, so I'm gonna just sit tight here. My add is 107. That's my break even. So if I hit 107, I'll be out. That'll be right down here, and I don't I obviously don't want to see it hit 107, but we'll see what we do here. And it looks like this is pulling back pretty heavy. If we get down to 107, there's my red, I'm out. Okay, so there's 107. So I took the rest off right there. And then we'll see. I mean, this could get bought back up. It doesn't matter as much to me. This is flashing red right here. It's more of that I was looking at this pivot. Now you can see it held 107 perfectly. So we'll see what this does. But I may have been out exactly at the pivot low. Hopefully not, but we'll see if that's the case. So yeah, then from here, of course, if this holds up, I am looking at the 5 minute as well. We have a doji candle here, so I can show you that on my chart. Let's go look at the 5 minute. So that's this doji candle where you've got this kind of demonstration of indecision plus a double top. Look, that doesn't mean it won't go higher, but you do just have this indecision candle. And, that's something to consider. So I do watch this 5 minute candle. There's still 2.5 minutes left on it. Let's pop back over to the 1 minute. So that did hold 107. We're getting a little bit more kind of consistent downtrend here now on the TTM. So, and you can see like my mindset of setting. So it was this candle we were working on. I accidentally fat fingered my sell on the prior, but I would have set that sell at 114, and it did end up coming back into it. Now we'll see what this does at 112. Again, if I'm going to take an entry here, I'm looking for 107 to hold. And I'm going to size down at this point too, because I'm now looking at this as a pullback. So there I took 1,000 shares here. Let's see what this does. We held the 8 EMA. And I know my stop loss is essentially 106. So, I know I'm risking $70 here. This is, again, I'm assuming that I'm going to be wrong until proven otherwise. And if this proves to me that it's going to ramp up, then I can add. But right here, I'm not looking to add at all. We've got another stock going off on the scanner, but it's a medium float, 40 million share float. So I'm going to ignore that one. All right, so there's some weakness. Let's see what she does down here. Again, I'm not adding. This is not like discount bargain shopping right here, where you're going to load up on toilet paper just because it's cheaper right now than it was when you bought it last month. What I'm going to do is I'm still assuming that I'm wrong until proven otherwise. So 21 EMA is at 106. If 106 holds, wow, that was kind of a big group of buying that came in. See that pop right back up to 113, 114. Now there's quite a bit of buying pressure there. Okay, so I just added again. So now I'm in at 115 looking for that high of day break. We hit 117 and kind of pulled back. Let's see what she does. So now I'm in 2,000 shares. I added 2 more rounds of 500. If you hear that going off on the scanner, that's that other low float stock here. And let's just see if this breaks high day. I'm looking for this to break high day now. So break even right now. 2,000 shares. I'm in at my average cost is 115. You can see my position there. So I took the entry at 113, added at 117. So that put me in right at high a day, kind of looking for that break. Just a new 5-minute candle just started, so pretty good bottoming tails on the prior 5. We'll switch to that so you can see that here on this other 5-minute real fast. There's kind of bottoming tails. This 5-minute candle just opened. We'd look for, this ideally to move higher at this point. Let's go back to our 1-minute. I know for sure, 106 is still going to be my exit. So, there's 120 that I've given back thus far on paper, of course. And I'm going to look, is this 107 going to hold? Or is this kind of the end of it? There's our pivot that just popped in. It'd be great to see this hold. We'd love that, right? It'd be really great to see this hold. And all right, so I'm picking up the next recording here. And still in this, you can see my average cost 115. I'm in at 109. This is kind of pulling back a little bit more here. We're still holding this 107. But again, I'm not going to give this a lot of room. If I can't hold this pivot, then I just want to be out. So 120 now. And the dollar value is not so much what I'm trying to focus on. I'm really trying to focus on, okay, we're going to hold this support at 107. And like I said, I'm not going to give it a lot of space. So I've got my finger on Control Z right now, which is my just sell all. Because, you take that next stab at it, which is great. And you're just trying to see, okay, is this going to move higher? And are we going to find some support for this next leg? And again, assuming, okay, I assume I'm wrong. That's why I'm not adding to my position on this pullback and hold of the 21. I don't want to add if the stock's proving me wrong. I want to add if it's proving me right in a space that seems like it makes sense to add. Which really, for me, the add would be break of high a day. That would show, okay, we've got some more momentum. Let's switch over to MNTS chart just really quick here. So a little consolidation. I'm trying to hold the 8 and the 21. Topped out right at the high of day, 950. That's a nice curl. And then now we're on our TTM, kind of trying to get some flip around. So let's go back to VRME. All right, so there's got a little buying support here. Let's see what this does. 114. If I look to add, I'm only going to add and share in lots of 500 here, just because we're not going to look to get super aggressive unless we can get up over high day. And this TTM right now is trending down. So this phase of like expecting to be uncomfortable, it's right in here, right? You've seen it come down. You've seen it hold support. Now, these are the moments where it's easy to just think, okay, I'm just going to assume break even and get out. If this hits 115, I'm out. Well, if it hits 115, it's proving you're right. Like if it hits 115, well, I mean, you're at least break even. But if it hits 115, you held support at 107. So now it's interesting to note, if you're going to keep moving up, then let's see what happens. And so that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm just watching to see will we get this next leg up, or does it roll over? And if it rolls over, I know where my exit is. That would be 9 cents a share on 2,000 shares. It'd be 180. And so we'll sit tight. Looks like this could give us a move. Now we see these sellers stack up. So now I'm going to watch these sellers to see if they get bought up. And they did. There they go. They got bought up. I did take a little bit more right there. Thought that was going to pop. And the sellers got bought up, but they kind of pushed it right back down. So I did add, you can see I added 115. So I added right at my entry again, which was nice. That wasn't adding to dollar cost average down. That's adding, looking at those sellers being bought up there and picking that up at my current average price. 111, 21 EMAs at 108, 112. So now over on the 5-minute, I won't switch to the 5-minute. We'll take a look at it here in a second. But now over on the 5-minute, that the 5-minute chart that just ended, which would have been right here at the close of this 610 candle, it's got much lighter selling volume than the prior 5-minute buying volume candles. There were 3 bigger buying volume candles, and so that's a good sign on the 5-minute. And we could potentially be looking for that break of 115, 117 here, if it'll give it to us. So again, this, expect to be uncomfortable stage sitting right here. Okay, now it looks like this maybe, we'll see if this holds 107. Pretty big kind of sell there now. TTM's way down. So again, in my mind, I'm thinking back end's 106. 106, I'm out. But right now we're holding that. You can see I'm down 175. That little add that I did just added size. Let's just see what this does if this holds this 21 EMA. I know that if I lose this pivot, I'm done, right? At 107, I'm not going to stay. Anything below 107, I'm not staying in. And especially with this TTM down, if I'm below 107, it could go strong bear and then kind of consolidate, and then maybe I'd be interested again on a push through up at the market open. We're only 20. I mean, we're about 18 minutes to the market open here. So again, this is still this, I expect to be uncomfortable phase. Now we have flipped strong bear-ish, meaning it's flashing strong bear down here on the TTM. MNTS looks like it keeps trying to recover, get some support. Just jump over to that one really quick. MNTS, yeah, it's coming into strong bull here. That pivot break at 9 could be interesting. Go back to VRME. Pull up the screen here. Let's see what this does. I know a lot of, sideways consolidation. 5-minute chart still looks good. We can look at that here really quick so you can see it. So let's go 5-minute. And this is what I mean by the 5-minute chart looks good. So we have these bottoming tails, right, that are kind of giving us some support, but it's lighter volume. So let me pull back up this, because if this hits 106, I want to be out. Let me get back to the 1 minute here. So again, I got Control Z ready to go in case this breaks this pivot, 107. does seem like we're maybe getting some support in here again. Here's MNTS looking for that break of 9. So this breaks 107. I'm going to be out. Let's see what this does. Oh, that was premature. So I took that exit. There was a quick flash of red on there. I took that exit, but now I'm going to just watch and see what it does. If we get some buying pressure back up, I may put that position back on and start again. Okay. So I added back there 1,000 shares. I am strong bear, which I don't love, but I am holding the 21 and that pivot. So I'm going to be patient. I'm taking even a smaller starter here at 1,000 shares, and I'm going to wait to see, does this give us the next leg? Hey, nice move on MNTS there up through 9. But I know that if I switch to MNTS, my entry needed to be kind of as this was transitioning to strong bull right here around 880. Would have been 890 for this move up. So we'll just stay back on VRME. A smaller TTM histogram here for the weakness. So let's see if we've got a spot we can add here. A lot of red flash there. Again, I'm going to sit tight here. I know I'm risking $40, well, $50. And I don't want to keep whittling away at this profit, because that's, $630 on a day is not bad. That's not bad at all. It's about those small, consistent gains, right? Your small, consistent winners. It's okay to have a kind of a target thought, but you're also not looking to force the market to do something that it's maybe not going to do that day. MNTS looks like it's continuing to hold 9 and get support there. Yeah, and I couldn't be a buyer up here on this. I would have been looking more around this 21 transition on this TTM. So I won't be a buyer here for that one. I'll go back to VRME and see what this does. I like that this has held the 21 EMA, and we've held this pivot multiple times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 candles. We're above the EMAs still. Again, I'm sitting tight. I'm not going to add, I'm not going to add right here. I'm waiting to see, can we push back up into this? And I'd be more inclined to add around 115, looking again for that high of day break. And obviously I'm watching the level too to see what happens with these sellers that pop up here. So here we're 113. There's 114. We'll pull back. There's 114. Let's see what happens to this seller there. Nope. Again, I haven't added yet. I'm just watching to see what this does. I do have my finger on the buy button, if you will. Some selling pressure there, weakness. $112. I want to pop over to MNTS really quick. I want to see this chart. So that high is 904. So, there could be a possible add there at 905 for the next leg up into the open. But we're going to stay focused on, there's a 905. So I'm going to take that right there. Typically, I won't do this where I'm in 2 different stocks at the same time, but I'm going to assume I'm going to take that 905, and my low would be this 888 roughly. So I can still watch this down here. I know what I'm kind of looking for. I don't advocate that you do this, obviously. Never advocate that you buy anything that I'm looking at. And I took a really small position here, so we're just going to see what this does, if this will hold 9. If it holds 9, then I can look to add as we get the next leg up through the 920s. So there's a nice little pop up there. This one, VRME, looks like it's pulling back. I still know what my back of mind stop loss is on this. 920. I'm going to add there. So I added 500. Now my average cost is 915. Now we're looking for high day break. That would be sweet. 930s. 5 days 950. Again, keeping in mind, I can add when the timing's right, if things look good. It's just trying to come into high day. On my level 2's running slow here now. So far, we're looking good there. 935. See if we get this break. 956, good there. It's high day. 965, 974. So see, now all of a sudden we're up $600 a share. Let's see where this thing goes. 700. This is looking pretty sharp. So again, back from this expect to be uncomfortable. So now here I'm watching VRME. I'm going to bail out of this if this hits 106. I remember what my back of mind target is. So now we're 994. That looks sharp. 980s. So I'm going to just sit tight here, right? I'm going to sit tight because the stock's proven me right. And I think normally I would have been kind of abandoned ship on the way up here instead of letting to see where this is going to go. So I have this open on my other charts to look at. We got a lot of room on the daily. By a lot of room, I mean 1045 would kind of be the next target on the daily. So again, I've got my sell trigger finger here just in case this hits 106. So I haven't added further on MNTS. I've got 1,000 shares. I feel pretty comfortable with that size at this point here, just below 10. So again, I'm watching VRME. Part of the reason I'm not adding to is I'm in 2 stocks, and this is not typical, but I did want to take a shot in case this would, break up through high a day, which it did. But this is where, there's 106. Okay, so I'm out now. Got out the rest of VRME. Okay, which is good because now we can just focus on MNTS. So we'll pull this a little bit lower. TTM's looking nice still. So we've got to pull back off of that. Now on the 1 minute chart, the selling volume of this candle at what would be 922 Eastern is lighter. Right now our selling volume's lighter on this candle. So what I'd be inclined to look for is, with this being a new breakout, do we get a couple of lighter selling volume candles, and then does it give me a chance to add on that break? If I do add, I'm going to probably add 500 shares. So the high of that candle is 990. Let's just see where we go here. I'd like to see this get into the ADMA a little more, so maybe we'll get a couple more consolidation candles, something sideways, and then that kind of next push up. Right now, MNTS is the second leading gainer for the low float scanner. And BVC, which is the leading gainer, has like 0 volume, so not really tradable for what we're doing. So we're going to just sit tight here. Okay, it looks like it's getting some buying support. This high is 990. I'm in at 915. I'm going to go ahead and add there. So I added 300 shares. I did it with the buy button rather than my hotkey. And then let's see if we get this next push up. There we go, 997. See what this does. So again, I'm just holding here. There's a nice little pop above 10. So 1045, I got a line here at 1050. That's kind of my next psychological price point. I'm going to pull back off of that 10. My average cost is now 932. Meanwhile, VRME is looking like it's trying to hold support again, but I'm going to just focus on MNTS. Got a decent position here, 1,300 shares. With that pop above 10. See if the ADMA holds here. Still got green candles on my TTM trend, so that looks nice. Still bullish on the TTM squeeze, or simpler trading, the TTM squeeze right down here. Now, as far as like targeted, I I don't really want to give back this full 400, if you will, but I'm also looking at this thinking, okay, this low is 959. I could assume a stop loss of 949. Give it 10 cents off of the pivot here. Or I got to assume break even, like 932, and just say, okay, well, you gave it a shot, and it did go higher, but it didn't run like you're really looking for it to run. So now we're getting a little deeper pullback. I'm going to assume break even, worst case scenario. There's 950. See if we can get some buying pressure back up, pop us back up. 5-minute candle still has 2 minutes left on it. And a little heavier selling on the 1 minute, particularly on this candle right here that kind of gave us this smallish tail at the top. I wouldn't consider this a large topping tail, but it is up through kind of a key psychological area, which is $10. Well, that was a nice little pop there. Let's see if we get the curl on this. That would be nice if we could get the curl here. Get the curl and push us up to 1050. That would be sweet. Okay, so now could potentially be looking to add here, possibly. I won't go in 500 shares again. I'll probably I would end up buying at 10. Looking for that push up through 10 and higher. So you can see I've got 300 shares dialed up. I've got 10 kind of dialed in here. Not exactly recovering the way I would look or like to see off of this candle, but we're going to sit tight here. We're still holding the ADMA. Gotta have a little patience. I may not do an add back here at 10 like I was thinking, just given the way that's not pushing hard up towards 10. There's some more buying coming in there. Feeling pretty good about my size right here at 1,300 shares for what my account is, as far as, again, paper trading. Again, I don't ever advocate that you follow me or use real money. Follow me into trades, I should say. Don't try to copy trade me. I don't encourage you to put real money at risk, and always to use a simulator. Five-minute candle's got 20 seconds left on it here as we come into 9:30. So this is coming into market open. I like that too, because this is the second leading gainer. It's up 71%. And if this draws some attention at the market open, anybody that's sitting on the sideline could be, looking to take action. Now I know this pivot low is 944, so market opens a little crazy. Let's see what this does. We always seem to get a lot of whipsaw action at the market open. We're trying to push up. There's a quick pop to 1019. So now I'm going to assume worst case scenario 944 as my stop loss. A nice move 1055. 1040s. So now we're up 1050, 1062, 1071. Let's see if we can get a hauled in here at 1085 here. Okay, the limit up moved to 1134. Now we got a little bit more room. That looks sharp. Like I said, I haven't added at all. I'm content with my position size here for the size of account that I have. Move right to 11. Now we technically have a window, or a gap fill, I should say, from 1071 to 1425. So there's actually a gap fill. So I'm going to draw this 1071. We'll put gap fill. Gap fill. Oops, if I can spell. Gap fill to that low on the daily chart is 1425. So gap fill to 1425. Now, does that mean I expect it to get to 1425? No, not specifically. But I'm mindful of it, right? I'm mindful of that gap fill. So I am going to go ahead and take half of my position off here. Locked in some really nice profit on there. I'm taking half off just because we've got this little bit bigger tail. And now I'm going to sit tight. Now you can see my average cost here is only 954. So with this average cost, I can then get a little bit flexible on, what I want to do. So we're now at 1400 on the day. This is still looking really solid. We're above the pre-market high. We've got a low here at 1030. I took off half at 1037. And, we may get some more strength into this with this being up 83% and having hit the high day scanners. That's a nice push there up to the 1070s. I'm just sitting tight here, just watching what this does. Getting some little tails up through this 1072. That 1072 is the start of our gap fill. And 1071 is kind of the window, so I'm actually going to edit this just slightly for accuracy's sake. I know it's just a penny, but I like to see it on my chart a little bit more that way. So still up 700 on the remainder of our position. We're up $1.27 spare. There's a nice pump up to 1099. Let's see if we can get a push through 11 here. So if we get through 11, then we're looking 1150. Still in our 650 shares here. Five-minute candle looks strong. Good volume. Good profile. We still have obviously a minute and a half, minute 20 left on it. TTM's looking nice. There's a nice pop up to 11, 11, 11, 11.25. Let's see if we can get a limit halt up. That'd be awesome at 11.64. So a little pullback there. 11.32 is now our high of day. Drag this down. And I got these green candles, we're holding the ADMA. I'm just going to sit tight. I'm not looking to exit anything. I feel comfortable. Comfortable is probably the wrong word. I want to feel uncomfortable. And I guess it technically is uncomfortable to sit here, be up $1,200 and not taking any profits off the table. So there's 1150. Let's see if we can break 1150. I'd like to see this get into this halt, like get a strong halt to this limit up at 1176. Let's see if she can do it here. Yeah, I mean, it is uncomfortable. Like you're sitting here, you're up almost $2 a share, you're up 1,200 on this position, and you're not taking anything off the table right here. Now, I wouldn't fault you if you did. because this is, a really nice winner at this point. But I also know that for me, I tend to feel that, I don't know, frustration a little bit more if I'm on the sidelines and I see the thing just keep pushing up. Like right now, the stock's proving us right. So even this pullback to 11, let's see, do we have buyers that swoop in and pick this thing back up? Right now, I'd probably be looking to set a sell limit at like 11.25. So let's throw one out there. I'm going to just click on this. I'm actually going to put this more up at like 11.40, and I don't want to. I'll take 300 off. Yeah. So let's just do sell. So that's at 11.39. I'm actually going to control Q that and put that right to 11.40. And actually, I'm just going to sit tight. I've got green candles, TTM strong, momentum's good, 5 minute looks good. This is our start of our first 5 minute candle. I'm not going to take anything off yet. I'm going to just sit tight. The stock's proving me right. I want to be big when I'm right and small when I'm wrong. And thus far, that's the way this is looking. So I'm okay to sit here. I do think I'll set a sell out at 11.45. Let's just put a sell order out there. See if we can get that kind of like pop up to 11.45. MNTS now up almost 100%. You know that this is definitely on people's radar right now. And if we get taken off half of our position at 11.45, okay, cool. And in fact, I'm going to take that back off. We're holding 11, and I'm maybe going to look to add 300 shares. All right, so still in here, 11.33. We got that little kind of pop up to 11.45. Still good momentum. We're up 98%, 98.5% right now. This stock is on the day for the gap fill. And we're looking at maybe some consolidation into the 8 EMA. So I'm still sitting here. I did take half off at 1037, which is a nice gain from my initial entry. My average cost is a really nice gain from my average cost. We're up $1.50 a share right here. And I'm looking to see, are we going to hold this $11 level and going to get that next leg up? So there's a little flash down. And I'm going to throw out a sell limit right there for 300 of 11.24. There, that filled. Okay, so now I still have 350 shares left. And let's see if we get another move up here. BVC is the only other leading or low float top gainer, but it's only done 47,000 shares of volume, so not nearly enough for this. In comparison, MNTS on the day thus far has done 16.8 million shares in volume. So you can tell that there's a lot more interest in MNTS than that BVC. And so that's why this is what I'm focusing on. So thus far, nice day here, up 2,000 in the bag. I am looking for these last 350 shares. Like, I won't exit this unless we lose the 8. And even if I get a red candle on my TTM trend here, we'd have to lose the 8. My average position 979 is my average cost right now, so I'm still up $1.50 on this last 350 shares. So I don't really see the need to abandon ship here. I'm much more interested in, is this going to continue to prove me right versus looking to just bail. So even this, I'd want to, if this closes below the 8 EMA, then okay. And I'm probably more inclined to set a sell limit like up here at 11 and see if this recovers. So let's do that. But I want to see this candle close, because if this candle closes, which it did, so I'm going to go ahead and set a sell limit at like 11 for the rest of my, maybe 1095 for the rest of my position. So I'll just hit sell there. And then if this will pop back up to 1095, that'd put us just right back there above the 80 MA. Then I'll be out. So there I'm getting a red candle. I am watching this 21. Like, it's not uncommon for these to pull back, hold the 21 EMA, and then, you know, you get a pretty good buying support and this comes in. So a lot more red here than I'd like to see. But we are above the pre-market high still because of my such a great entry on my average cost, if you will, my 978 979 as I added. I can watch this pull back a little bit. Now, that all is just up to your strategy. Like, I look, if people got out up here at, you know, 11 on the way up or 1140, that's not, I'm not saying that's wrong. That's not what I do, and that's doesn't mean that that's right or wrong either. It just means that based upon kind of my trading style and how I know myself, I'm much more inclined to try to set this last exit out up here at 11 and see if we get a kind of a curl up and a retest. And that would be contingent upon holding the 21 EMA. So right now we're really not. We did hold the pre-market high at 1010, which is great. And again, I can assume break even on these last 350 shares. Like, do I want to break even? No. You know, some may say, well, you just gave up $1.50 a share of profit. Okay, yeah, that's true, but I'm also trading a stock that's up 80% still right now, and we just got our first 5-minute red candle in the last, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. In the last 30 minutes, we just closed our first red 5-minute candle. So now I'd kind of be watching to see, does this pre-market high hold? And I'm going to go ahead and take off my $11 sell, because if this breaks below pre-market high, I want to be out. That's what I'm watching right now. I'm watching this dashed pre-market high line at 1011. It looks like it's trying to hold that right now. I wouldn't be opposed, you know, if this got back up above 1036 or even this 1050. Like, I honestly wouldn't be opposed to adding back and seeing if we can get a push back up to 1150. So there we're kind of, yeah, so not looking super sharp. I'm out. Okay, so I took the rest off right there. 987. I mean, that's a nice winner. $2,031 on the day between those two trades. You know, guys, my like, look, and I did get some red candles, and I've really been pushing myself hard in this paper trading that if I get a red candle that loses the 8, I can be out. Now, that's all contingent upon what my average cost is. Like, if my average cost, so in this case, was clear down here at 979, and that was after adding to my position, then I've just found, for me, like, I need to see this pull back some, and I'm better off to throw a limit order out here. Now, you'll notice that I talked about 1145. That hit 1145 exactly, and I didn't have that limit order out there. Sorry, let me pop that back up. I didn't have that limit order out there. And then, you know, the next one ended up being, this high was 1133. Now, I had set that sell limit at about 1124, which is right there. You see that sell limit on my trading monitor at 1124. That filled. So, and that's awesome. That took, you know, 300 more shares off. I had 350 left. And at that point, like, even if I get a single red candle but it holds the 21, which in this case it did, I'm then looking to see, maybe this thing's got enough attention that it's going to reverse, and I could potentially be adding back, looking for the next leg up. That's not what happened in this case. So then, of course, as we break the 21, now I'm looking a little bit even more hesitant that it goes down further. And then as we break pre-market high, I know I can be out. But that low average entry cost, it just gives you a lot of opportunity to be flexible with what the stock is going to do for you. And I know that for me, the expectation, I'm going to take my trading monitor screen here off. I know for me, everybody, like, the expectation to perfectly pick this bottom at 829 and then perfectly pick the top at 1170 is not reality. I don't think that's reality for anybody. I do think that I can do what I did, which is I can see this pop up. I can see this go into strong bull. I can take an entry on holding $9 a share, which was kind of in this ballpark. As we got into the ADMA, we hit first 1 minute candle right here from this little pullback. I can get in at this entry, add to my position on a pop up, sit tight through the sideways, add again on the next push up that we're holding the 8. My average cost ended up then being 979, and here we run into the market open and get this nice move. That's $2 a share from my average cost roughly, and I took some off. You guys saw that. I took some off at 1035. I'll pull back my trading window. I took some off at 1037. And then my next sell wasn't until 1124, which was right here. Okay. So, let me make sure I got the time right. 938. So that's this candle. So, 1124 is my next exit. And because my average cost is so low, I've got some flexibility to see will this hold and give us the next move. Now, this thing could curl. It's kind of popping back up above the pre-market high. But for me, I'm up $2,000 on the day, and I don't want to cap my winning days. That's kind of not the point of this. But I love what Ross Cameron says, which is I also don't want to overstay my welcome. I don't want to be buying here thinking, oh, you could get $1 a share. Well, I could also give up $1 a share if I get stubborn, right? So even though this is curling back up and looking pretty decent, this move off the VWAP, I don't love the fact that the TTM is strong bear here. I don't love the fact that this ADMA is still kind of pointed down. I'd much rather, you can see the difference right here. And I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but you can see the difference. See how these EMAs, they're really nicely lined out when I was taking this position around 9. Plus, I know my stop loss can be the low of this candle, which was 888. Like, I can define my risk really well. Here, if I'm buying here, yeah, there might be some shorts covering, but I'm also expecting as we get into 1050, 1071, 11, you got shorts that are just going to be pounding this thing because their stop loss is going to be up here. If they're taking an entry around 11, their stop loss might be 1134 or 1151, depending on their position size. And you got all that to overcome. So at this point, I'd much rather see this, pop up and kind of hold 11, my EMA's line back out, and then I'm looking for shorts to cover from there instead of being the guy that's trying to buy through this move here. I have seen it work time and time again where the 21 EMA will hold. If I was going to do anything, I would take a way smaller starter, like 300 shares instead of my 500 share or 1,000 share starter, and then I would see what it does. But I don't need to overstay my welcome. I'd rather see this get lined out like the way these EMAs looked as I'm taking this trade. As I'm taking this trade coming into high of day break, this is a lot more attractive to me with these exponential moving averages stacked 8, 21, 34, 55 than trying to guess here is like, is this going to pop up? Like, am I going to get the curl? Now I'm freaked out because, okay, where do I set my stop loss? Like, clearly for me, my stop loss would need to be this pivot at 975. So I need to be like 970 on my stop loss. So on 1,000 shares, do I really want to give back 300 when I've got these EMAs upside down? And for me, that the answer to that is no. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm way more inclined to see, can this get this curl back up, and what do we do around $11 a share, up in this realm. So I'm just looking to see if anything else is hitting the scanner. It's almost 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm on Pacific time, so it's 6:50 right now. MNTS, for any stock with any volume, it's definitely the low float top gainer. Um, we've done 32 million shares of volume on it so far this morning. And the next closest low float top gainer is ASTI, and it's only done 500,000 shares of volume. It's up 39%. So it does seem like MNTS is the obvious stock for the day right now. And that's okay. I'm content just to watch this one. I'm still watching the TTM. I am strong bear down on the TTM. So again, like I'm not even considering taking an entry here. What I'm looking at is will our pre-market high hold? Because we know that that's kind of a battleground between buyers and sellers is this pre-market high. Um, so if this pre-market high is going to hold, then at that point, okay, maybe we do get a curl, right? But if it doesn't hold and then VWAP breaks, you could be in looking at lower prices, I guess is probably the best way to say that, and still keep an open mind. But it looks like it's trying to get some support. There was a big cover, obviously, either big buyer, big short covering. That's our first bar of possible weak bear on the TTM. And again, I'm still not looking to buy here. Like I can see the price action. The 8's still below the 21. Now it may cross here and be above. We did get a flip on a green candle here for the TTM trend. But if I buy here at 1040, my stop loss really technically would be down in the 980s. So 500 shares, I'm risking $250. Okay, maybe that's not bad. Like 250, and if my top of mind target's 1150, all right, so I'm risking 50 cents a share to make $1 a share. Okay, I could see that working for some people. I just don't think that makes sense for me right here. So I'm just trying to share my thought process and mindset as I'm watching this. Now, could this thing just totally rip without me? Sure. Like, would I feel bad? Well, I may go back and look at the chart and say, okay, what did I miss? Should I have been taking this on the 21 EMA with a stop loss just below pre-market high at say 1009? Yeah, maybe I would consider that. But I'd also come back and look at the TTM and say, you're only second bar of weak bear here. I've seen these come back up, be really trending, and then just nuke down because there wasn't enough buying to really sustain the momentum. I will say on the 5-minute, our prior 5-minute high is 1047. This high is 1060 of the current 5-minute candle. So for a 5-minute trader, you could look at that multi-time frame alignment and say, okay, it makes sense to take an entry here because I'm getting first 5-minute candle to make a new high, with the high of the prior 5-minute candle being 1047. I can show you that here on my chart. So if I look at the prior 5-minute candle, which is this one, at 9:45 Eastern, that high is 1047. And so one could argue, okay, I'm going to take this as a first 5-minute candle to make a new high, and my stop loss will be still at 978. So, that's still 50-ish cents a share. Or you could say stop loss at, right around this pre-market high, I'm going to bail. And if you took a smaller starter, depending on your account size, like maybe that does make sense. And then you look for your next leg. So, so that could be an interesting thesis on the 5-minute. Low of 977, low of 975. Definitely kind of a double bottom low off of the VWAP here. But I just think for where I'm at, that's not, to me, that's not the same strength of trade that this was, where we've had this big ramp up, pullback ramp, kind of topped out, consolidation, Now, okay, now we're coming into strong bull TTM, pull back, holds the 8. Now I'm looking to add for break on high day. Like, I feel like this setup, this is more of an A plus setup for me than looking at this one here, where I feel like this is more of the chop zone. And what I mean by chop zone is, yes, we're trending up on the TTM just like we were here, but you can see the size of these histograms is quite different. You know, this strong bear weak bear histogram, the size of it overall is much smaller than the size of this one. And what that signals to me is just be patient. Just be patient and wait. See if this will get back to looking like it's going to flip. Maybe we do get into these red dots, which is this mid compression squeeze on the TTM. Maybe we do get into that and then we flip to strong bull. All right, now I could get interested again. But my concern is you see this big pump candle, you take an entry here at 1030 for that 1050 break, and yeah, you get a run up 30 cents a share. If you're quick scalping, great. And then it immediately loses those EMAs again, and I'm like, I don't know how to handle that. Like, now I'm out. And then of course nobody knew this was going to happen, but now you're out because you broke pre-market high and the selling pressure is clearly coming in. So that's what I mean by, like, I just feel as though this setup in the pre-market high approaching sorry in the pre-market approaching pre-market high is a lot stronger than this TTM strong bear weak bear transition. Strong bear being the reds, weak bear being these yellows. And so I just feel that the strength of this setup coming into strong bull is much more attractive than trying to pick a bottom somewhere in here and then hoping that I get this next move up. That's what I see. Now, like I said, in full disclosure, I'm not a professional trader. I don't trade full time for a living yet. I hope to at some point in my career. I am paper trading in a simulator, but you saw all of my entries and exits real time right here on my trading monitor. And so I am pushing myself to practice what I have found for me to be a successful strategy. And for those of you who hadn't seen my performance for the month of, let's just take a look here. My performance for the month of December, just under $15,000 in paper profits. Now, you can look at my November and be like, wow, you got absolutely decimated. Yes, I did. That is part of learning. And I am proud to say that, the stark contrast between November and December is a focused commitment back to improving in those areas where I would really struggle, which is cutting losses and not letting these massive days get ahead of me, right? 19,000, 8,000, 14,000, 5,000. When we go look at December, you can see that I've really addressed that issue. And that's what becoming, the best version of yourself as a trader is all about. If I know that my mentality and psychology is such that I really hate um, feeling like feeling like I'm losing in the case of losing in any given day. I played sports competitively, through my younger years into high school. I wasn't a collegiate athlete, but I played through high school. I grew up in a larger family. We were all very competitive. We still are competitive. We like to win. And so when I would have these days where I was down 1,200 back in November, I would just keep pushing it. And and in that way, the paper trading really wasn't as real as it should have been. But you can see, in contrast to my December, I did have this one big red day at 5,700. And when I was down 1,500, it was like, hey, this is your place to stop. And I didn't. And you can see what that lent itself to. Meanwhile, you see these nice strings of green days again in contrast to November. So what that tells me is, especially in a slow market, November was slow too. November was slow. We've been slow almost, probably since September, really. October was kind of a little bit okay. You can see October, I did end up net profitable. But even in October, I had these bigger, 5,000, 13,000 blow up days. Like, if I eliminate this October day and I keep this at a $1,500 loss, then looking at this week in October, now all of a sudden that's green. And if I keep both of these at 1,500, 27th and the 30th, that's 900 different, and 2,200, that's $3,100 difference. Now this week's green as well. And so you start to see that has been my big challenge, is to take these red days and just be okay with it. Not from the standpoint that I'm giving up, but understanding that I win the game by having the Tom Hogarth mentality of best loser wins, right? Take your losses and be done with it. And that's what I've been able to apply much better in December. And I will say this, like, I have prayed really hard. I believe in God, I believe in our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and I have prayed really hard for them to help me grow into the person that I need to become to find success in this. um, I've always been curious about the stock market. It's something that has just been fascinating to me from a very young age. I remember watching, the evening news with my dad, and you'd see the stock tickers come across, and he and I would talk about mutual funds. And I was 11, 12 years old, and they had these, really cool, old school. It's like I can't even describe it to where somebody that hasn't seen one would maybe understand it, but it's essentially like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and there's a round wheel in the center of it, and you slide some numbers around on it, and it's essentially an investment device where you put your rate of return, you put how much you've invested, and you put your timeline on it using the different little wheels in it, and it tells you, 20 years from now how much money that would be worth. And so we would do that on drives with the family. We would talk about stocks and things all the time. So I've always had this fascination with the market, and that curiosity has led me to where I am at now. But I want to give, praise to God, and just say that as I've prayed, I have felt these things come to my mind. I have seen these examples and felt inspired to say, this is where you need to improve. Like, it's great that you don't want to, feel like a quitter or a loser on these red days, but you've got to be a best loser wins mentality and really take this approach that don't let these big red days blow up your account. And so I'm proud to say that in December, I was able to do that. I was able to take that learning and that inspiration and do much better. And you can see how that translates into consistent profits. The 2nd of January, I had a good day. Today, we're the 5th of January. I'm up 2,000 on the day. I'll probably be done on the day. I'll pop to my trading monitor here so you can see that. Let me get over to the right screen. Here we go. So position summary on the day, up 2,000, and I'll probably be done for the day. It's 7 o'clock my time. I'll, get ready to go to the gym, go hit the gym, come back, get ready for my regular, 8 to 5 job. But this has been a huge blessing in my life to be able to work on these things and find myself coming into this consistency. So hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this helpful. If you enjoyed this content, please give me a subscribe. I'd love to have you come and watch me. I will be doing these recordings. So I'm doing this as part of my live trading, live recording process, if you will, to start getting used to where I could then live stream and folks could watch me live. So more to come on that, but right now I'm going to just start in with these live recordings and then post these. You can see my real entries, my real exits, and I just look forward to us growing together. And hopefully, again, this has been helpful to you. Feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to chat and dialogue further. As I mentioned, this is something that I've always been fascinated by, which is the market overall and just stocks in general. And if you've got that fascination as well and this drive, I want this to be an example to you that you can do this. It's painful. It's hard. I've been paper trading, clear back since June. It doesn't show my June, but clear back since June is when I really started that paper trading journey. And you can see I've had these ups and downs. July and And then August was a little bit profitable, and September was really bad. And then, um, October profitable, November really bad. And then now I'm coming into much more consistency as I've kept working on myself. So I do encourage you to trade in a simulator. Don't, the market's going to be there for you. You don't get these day, like anybody that's, it can be lucky and get a single day like this. Where the consistency, where the real skill starts to come in is when you can string together consecutive weeks of profitability. That's how you know your skills improving, what you're seeing in the market. You're getting a more trained eye for that. But look, it's not a fast journey, and rather than getting yourself beat up with real money, dial in this skill on a paper trading account in a live, an actual kind of simulator similar to what I'm using. This is through Warrior Trading with Ross Cameron, and I love that simulator. It's great. But practice in a simulator. You'll notice something interesting. VRME, as we've been chatting here. Let's go look at VRME. This had a nice curl. Now we're back up through pre-market highs. But practice. Practice. Just take your time. The market's going to be there for you. Don't get ahead of yourself. I did that and suffered some really big losses that were unnecessary. And now I'm working on dialing in this skill so that then I can be prepared for going back to real money trading. But I am going to push myself to perform well before I get into that world again. So again, if this is helpful, give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. Appreciate y'all so much for joining in, and happy Monday.